Twilight's New Moon by Zoe Horse. Chapter 1. The Great and Powerful. Shortly after the events of Magic Duel. The cold night air in Ponyville bit into Twilight's sparkle sides as she made her way home from Sweet Apple Acres. Her stomach full from the apple dinner, yet uneasy from the events of last week. It had been a stressful one. It had started with the swarm of Pinkie Pies, then the near-death car crash of one of Applejack's cousins, and had been finished off by her reappearing. Trixie had been in the back of Twilight's mind ever since they had first met. She was a gorgeous-looking mare, one that was hard to forget, but she was just another villain of the week. A horse that, in a roundabout way, showed her that it was okay to be proud of how good she was at magic. Sure, when she had first seen her, she had been a little taken aback by how pretty she was, but that beauty was quickly covered by the shroud of arrogance. But then she came back. She had heard stories of the Alicorn Amulet's power, but had no idea of the raw strength it could bring out, and as much as Twilight would have loved to deny it, the amulet had brought out something else. Seeing her being truly great and powerful had created a small tingle deep inside of her that hadn't gone away, a small tingle that she had suppressed to the deepest crevices of her soul, a small tingle that had been left locked in a cage, the key buried in the tips of her hooves. Yet that tingle had slowly started to fester and grow. She had managed to keep her mind off it for the time being, as it had been a busy day. Pinkie had thrown a "Twilight is back" and scared off Trixie, and also restored the town from being turned into a totalitarian state for the second time party, and all her closest friends had been invited to Sweet Apple Acres for dinner. Now that she was alone, she had nothing to keep her distracted, and thoughts were starting to float back up to the surface. The way the tacky magician had stood above her, the power flowing out of her mane flowing in the artificial wind behind her. She looked incredible. She looked... No, Twilight muttered to herself aloud. You do not like her. She's the worst. She hurt your friends. She was mean to Fluttershy. She... What's wrong, Twilight? Scared of my power? The vision of her smug face washed across her mind as she slowly came to a halt. The way her eyes had glinted as she stood there, and the smug grin curling on her muzzle. She shook her head wildly, managing to clear away the thought. She was just tired. She needed to sleep. That would get rid of whatever these thoughts were. Come on, girl, you just need to rest. Whatever this thing is will pass. You're going to go to bed, and in the morning, you're going to go to Rarity's, after you've dropped off the Alicorn Amulet. She told herself firmly, as she passed the small alleyway to the side of Sugar Cube Corner. She was too focused on herself and her thoughts to notice the pony in said alley, who was halfway through chewing on a donut she had found in the bin. As the pony saw her pass, she froze in place, her eyes following her until she had left her field of vision, lingering on the last spot she had seen her. So, the amulet is still in her possession. Obscured from the world was the smile growing on her muzzle, as she began to quietly laugh to herself. She had planned to just skip town after a raid of the bins, but it seemed she had some unfinished business here, and she was never one to let go of a marvelous opportunity. She wanted the Alicorn Amulet back, and she knew just how to get it. Twilight stared up at the horse before her, her eyes wide and mouth pursed. The room they were in was dark, with a single bright spotlight shining down on the pair of them. Trixie was laying on her golden throne, hind legs crossed, beckoning her closer. Come, Twilight. There is nothing to be afraid of. Her voice echoed around her in the darkness. Without even thinking, Twilight moved towards her, entranced by the almost song-like tone the magician spoke in. Eventually, she reached the throne, and Trixie slid down to her level. Smirking, she placed a hoof on Twilight's cheek. Twilight tensed. Is this what you want? She asked, raising one eyebrow as she gently moved the hoof round to her chin. Twilight gulped, but nodded, her cheeks burning up. Yes. Trixie smiled and slowly moved in, their muzzles touching as they began to kiss. No! Twilight jolted up in bed, finding herself almost hyperventilating as she managed to shake herself awake. Sweat pouring down her face, she glanced at the clock. 2 a.m. Fuck. She lay flat, back down onto her mattress, staring up at the ceiling. Never in her many years of being a horse had she had a dream like that. She had never dreamt, nay, thought, of anyone like that before. She could deny it no longer. As much as she loathed to admit it, she had a crush on Trixie Lulumoon, a huge one. She let out a loud groan and covered her eyes with her hooves. This was hell. She rolled out of bed and into a standing position on the floor. She would solve this the way she solved all of her problems, which was, of course, intense study of ancient tomes. There had to be a spell for getting rid of a crush. She couldn't have been the first pony to have this issue, surely. Lighting her horn, she moved down the stairs, and gently started floating books towards her. Crash! Twilight froze. That had come from the basement. Spike? Is that you? Spike was staring at rarities tonight, but he could have come home without her realizing. No response. Come on, I won't be mad, she continued. No response. This is when she started to worry. Spike was an idiot at times, but was smart enough to know when to admit a mistake. Twilight gulped. Usually when she was walking headfirst into danger, she had one of her many colorful friends with her. Not this time. Carefully, opening the door, she made her way down the stairs. There was a hurried rustling coming from the room at the end of the corridor, as if someone was rapidly trying to put everything back where it was supposed to be. I am not in the mood for this tonight, she called out as she moved down the corridor, charging up a paralysis spell to cast on whoever the late-night interloper could be. Please, just leave my treehouse, and I won't have to report you to... She paused a little bit, as she realized there really wasn't any form of law enforcement in Ponyville. Well, I'll deal with you myself. The hurried rustling grew more frantic as Twilight angrily marched towards the door and forcefully kicked it open with her front hoof. The storage room was dark, with only the faint glow of a unicorn's horn illuminating one of the corners. Twilight moved on in, keeping the spell ready to fire at a moment's notice. She quickly found the source of the commotion. An entire shelf had been knocked down, with scientific contraptions strewn everywhere. Some smashed to bits, suppressing the growl forming in her throat at the thought of what she would do when she found out who did this. She continued on into the room towards the glow, which she could now see was coming from behind a crate full of blank scrolls. A mirror was propped up behind it, meaning she could just about see the blue horn that was causing the glow. Last warning, she called out, not connecting the dots, her voice wavering a little from the anger. Whoever dared do this to her tonight was going to pay. She arrived at the edge of the crate, and could see the glow of the magic start to shudder a bit. Whoever it was wasn't too keen to be caught. Okay, here we go. Twilight leapt around the corner. Stop right... It was Trixie, covered in random chemicals and dirt, staring right back up at her. Twilight! Fancy meeting you here, she said with a sheepish smile on her face. Whatever her plan was, this was clearly not part of it. Twilight's brain shorted out. What was Trixie doing in her basement, right after she had that dream? Feeling the blush suddenly burn up her face, she tried to keep her cool. What the fuck are you doing in my basement? Was all she managed to get out before Trixie leapt at her, pushing her down to the floor. Twilight let out a cry as she let her spell fly, her surprise causing it to misfire wildly and shoot towards the wall. Trixie tried to make a break for it, but Twilight was too quick. She didn't have time to process any emotion she was having right now, and she leapt towards her. Zap! The spell had bounced off the mirror and hit the pair of them. Twilight felt her muscles tense up, completely stiff, as she flew into Trixie, who was stuck in a mid-sprint pose. The pair crashed into a heap in the corner. Twilight's eyes were shut tight as the dust settled. The last 5 seconds had been amongst the most stressful in her life. She tried moving, but it was no use. The spell she had used had been a powerful one. Oh well, this isn't how I planned this to go. Why was Trixie's voice so close? Well, Twilight, I know you're always dying to see me again, but I didn't expect you to want to get so close and personal. Oh no. Oh fuck no, please. Twilight slowly opened one eye. She immediately wanted to close it again. Trixie was right in front of her, their muzzles only inches apart, staring directly into each other's eyes. She had been hit with the same spell, and was in a similarly stuck position. Whilst Twilight looked terrified, Trixie looked smug. I imagine this is one of Steelhoof's paralysis spells, said Trixie, raising one eyebrow as she stared right into Twilight's eyes. Twilight tried to nod before realizing she couldn't. Yes? And how long does that last? Around 5 hours. Wow, Miss Sparkle, imagine that! 5 hours face to face with the great and powerful Trixie. This must be a dream come true. Dream come true. Twilight's eyes had shut again as Trixie had started to speak, but her saying those words conjured up images of the dream she had just woken up from. Opening her eyes, the visual of the kiss in her mind's eye blending into the view of Trixie's face, right in front of her, looking every bit as frustratingly pretty as before, and she would be stuck looking at her for the next 5 hours. This was going to be the worst night ever. Hello, it's me, Bunny. Welcome to the end credits. Going forward, this is going to be where I plug Ko-Fi and such, but currently I'm using it to plug a GoFundMe. Cinna, known on FilmFiction as Red Hoodie 21, is raising money to get him and his cat Oscar out of an abusive home. More info can be found in the GoFundMe linked below. If you do donate, you can take a screenshot of the donation receipt and email it to me at bunnyblastYGO@gmail.com. Then, I'll send you the rest of Twilight's New Moon more than a month in advance, as well as this month's round of one-shots. So basically what would be the Ko-Fi membership rewards. Beyond that, this Friday, you'll see Zoe's Even Green Leaves Fall for Autumn, and next Tuesday, Chapter 2, Her Muzzle, Inches Away. Bye!